Fresh developments out of Geneva have once again placed global diplomacy under the spotlight. Negotiations between Iran and the United States wrapped up far more quickly than expected, and analysts say the brief duration offers little reason for optimism. What many had hoped would be a substantial round of high-stakes diplomacy instead concluded with cautious statements and no clear breakthrough. Welcome to USA Latest Update, your trusted source for breaking political news, powerful analysis, and the stories shaping America's future. From Capitol Hill decisions to major global developments, we bring you the facts, the context, and the impact, all in one place. If you want real updates without the noise, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's big story. The talks were centered on Iran's nuclear program, sanctions relief, and broader regional tensions that continue to shape Middle Eastern geopolitics. In the days leading up to the meeting, speculation had intensified. Some observers believed this round could reopen a pathway toward a structured agreement, or at least establish confidence-building steps. However, when the meetings ended sooner than anticipated, diplomatic insiders interpreted it as a sign that core disagreements remain unresolved. Speed in diplomacy can sometimes signal efficiency and alignment. But when discussions involve highly technical nuclear oversight mechanisms, sanctions frameworks, and regional security guarantees, quick conclusions often suggest that positions are still far apart. According to several analysts, the early wrap-up indicates that neither side was prepared to significantly shift its stance at this stage. Iran has consistently maintained that its nuclear activities are for peaceful purposes and insists on the removal of economic sanctions as a precondition for meaningful concessions. The United States, on the other hand, continues to push for enhanced transparency, stricter verification measures, and long-term guarantees that Iran's nuclear program will not advance toward weaponization. These positions are not new, but the persistence of these divides underscores the complexity of reaching any comprehensive agreement. The shadow of past agreements looms large over these discussions. Previous diplomatic efforts produced landmark arrangements, only to see them unravel under shifting political circumstances. That history has injected a level of caution and, in some cases, distrust into every new round of negotiations. Both sides appear wary of making commitments that could later be reversed by political changes at home. The location itself carries symbolic weight. Geneva has long been associated with delicate international negotiations and conflict resolution. Its neutral diplomatic environment has hosted countless historic agreements. Yet symbolism alone cannot bridge policy gaps. While the setting suggested seriousness and intent, the outcome suggested that the substance of the talks has yet to catch up with the symbolism. Regional dynamics further complicate the equation. The Middle East remains a landscape of fragile balances and ongoing rivalries. Any shift in U.S.-Iran relations has ripple effects across neighboring countries, energy markets, and security alliances. Investors and policymakers worldwide are closely monitoring every signal, aware that even subtle changes in tone can influence oil prices, defense strategies, and regional alignments. Official statements released after the talks were predictably measured. Both sides described the discussions as constructive and agreed to remain in contact. However, no joint roadmap, timeline, or concrete next steps were publicly announced. In diplomatic language, this often translates to continued dialogue without immediate progress. The absence of a detailed framework has reinforced skepticism among observers who were hoping for clearer movement. Domestic politics also play a critical role. In Iran, leadership must balance international engagement with domestic expectations around sovereignty and resistance to external pressure. In the United States, any agreement involving sanctions relief or security guarantees would face scrutiny from lawmakers and political opponents. These internal pressures limit flexibility at the negotiating table, making compromise more difficult. Some analysts argue that the short duration of the talks might have been strategic. Keeping expectations low can prevent political backlash if negotiations stall. By avoiding dramatic announcements, both governments may be attempting to manage public perception while continuing quieter, behind-the-scenes discussions. Still, without visible progress, optimism remains restrained. Another important factor is the technical complexity of nuclear negotiations. Verification protocols, inspection regimes, uranium enrichment limits, and sanctions compliance mechanisms require detailed, line-by-line discussions. Such matters are rarely resolved quickly. If negotiators concluded early, it may indicate that preliminary positions were restated rather than deeply negotiated. Trust remains the central obstacle. Diplomatic breakthroughs depend not only on policy alignment, but also on confidence that commitments will be honored. After years of fluctuating agreements and heightened tensions, rebuilding that trust will likely require incremental steps rather than sweeping announcements. Confidence-building measures, humanitarian exchanges, or phased sanctions adjustments could potentially pave the way. But none were publicly confirmed this time. The broader international community is watching carefully. European powers have often acted as intermediaries, encouraging both sides to maintain dialogue. Global institutions emphasize that diplomacy remains preferable to escalation. A collapse in talks could intensify regional instability, while gradual progress could ease long-standing tensions. The stakes extend far beyond the two countries directly involved. Energy markets are particularly sensitive to developments in U.S.-Iran relations. Even the perception of diplomatic progress can influence oil supply expectations. Conversely, stalled negotiations can fuel uncertainty and volatility. For economies already navigating inflationary pressures and geopolitical disruptions, clarity in this arena is highly consequential. Public opinion is divided. Some view continued dialogue, no matter how slow, as a positive sign that channels of communication remain open. Others see repeated rounds of inconclusive meetings as evidence of entrenched stalemate. Both perspectives reflect the reality that diplomacy is rarely linear. Progress can be uneven, with setbacks often preceding breakthroughs. What happens next is uncertain. Will there be another round of negotiations with a more detailed agenda? Will back-channel communications produce incremental agreements? Or will the current pause harden positions further? For now, both sides have avoided closing the door entirely, leaving space for future engagement. It is important to recognize that transformative agreements often emerge after extended periods of apparent stagnation. Early sessions sometimes serve to clarify red lines rather than produce results. If this meeting helped each side better understand the other's limits and priorities, it may still have laid groundwork for future progress, even if that progress is not immediately visible. At the same time itself can be a factor. As regional tensions persist and global strategic competition intensifies, delays carry their own risks. Prolonged uncertainty can strain alliances and encourage more confrontational policies. The challenge for both Tehran and Washington is to balance firmness with flexibility. For now, the takeaway is clear. The Geneva talks concluded swiftly and no breakthrough was announced. The atmosphere remains cautious, and optimism is measured at best. The diplomatic channel remains open, but the distance between positions appears substantial. The coming weeks will reveal whether this brief encounter was merely a procedural step in a longer process or a sign that negotiations are entering another difficult phase. In high-stakes diplomacy, outcomes are rarely immediate. The world will be watching closely to see whether dialogue deepens or drifts further into uncertainty. Thank you for watching USA Latest Update. If you found this report informative and valuable, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to USA Latest Update for the latest political news and breaking updates from across America. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an important story. Stay informed, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next update.